Super BS.
Well, here we are. It is I Lovable Baby Boy Brank, and I'm back with one of the heaviest episodes that you've been waiting for all year, the Game of the Year episode, and I'm going to be joined by the despised one. Reveal yourself, despised one. What do you go by these days?
Boo. Just a guy named Josh, or Janky Jankerson, whatever you want to call me is fine. Just go with your gut, follow your heart. I'll be whatever you want to call me. Just don't say I'm late for dinner, all right?
And he's definitely not under the weather, okay? He's as fit as a fiddle, okay? He's a young boy. He's growing. He's drinking his milk every day. He's eating his dinner rolls. He's good, okay? So don't worry about him if you're watching this or seeing him and you're worried that he's going to die.
Sure. Yeah.
On air, which will probably happen. Keep watching. Okay, and who else are we joined by? We're joined by one of our faves. Reveal yourself.
What's up, everyone? It's the Podfather himself, Gerald Glassford. How you doing?
Podfather, we are honored. Okay, so
See,
you guys...
I've got the Podfather here, see? Yeah, I got my own...
Oh,
hey,
nice.
Hey,
Wait, what
guys,
is that?
Real quick, before we
By the
roll
way-
things out, I need to know, just let's do a quick round robin. Favorite movie of the year, go. Branky.
Okay, favorite movie of the year? This is a hard round robin to do. Oh, dude. I don't know, Dune 2 or the Saturday Night Live movie? I don't know.
All right. Yeah, pick one. Which one?
Okay. I guess I'll go with Dune 2. Even though I've never wanted to rewatch it ever again, Dune 2 is pretty incredible. But man, if I would have known this was going to be a question, I would have come a little bit more prepared.
I'm just keeping you on your toes. This is a pop quiz, man.
And this is a pop culture quiz. Okay, what is Gerald? What's your movie of the year?
Doom Part 2, and I did rewatch it
Yeah.
twice in the theaters. I've said it before on the Pop Culture Cosmos that I watched it not only on an XD theater, but on IMAX. The sandworm scene is one of the most thrilling scenes I've seen in the century.
Wow.
Doom Part
Okay.
2 is one of the best sci-fi films. I don't know. I can't decide whether I like Part 1 or Part 2 better. I know for some people, Part 1 was like, oh, slow. For me, it actually did a lot of the character building. And it did a lot of heavy lifting that I enjoyed, leading you into Part 2, which was truly incredible. Both films were truly incredible. Part 2 was absolutely a feast for the eyes, and Denis Villeneuve should be given a hearty handshake for all of his great work on these two films.
I agree. That movie's incredible. Hey, janky, despised one, Joshy boy. What's the number one?
Okay, well, Dune Part 2 was fine and everything. Alien Romulus is my movie of the year here.
Really?
I know, and I said...
I wanted to see that movie.
I said...
I didn't watch it.
Ask Gerald here. I said I would never watch another Alien movie after Covenant, but I was driven to Disney Plus earlier this week to watch Alien Romulus, and it was actually really good.
You didn't like Covenant?
Covenant was garbage, man. Like, it was... They took...
Really?
Prometheus was a beautiful film. All right, a lot of people disagree with me on that.
I think
but,
they're all fun. I think they're all good movies, man.
Covenant-
I mean, everything except for the third one by the French
the
director.
third one
That
was
guy
bad, yeah. But the
It was
Covenant
crazy.
was supposed to be the sequel that Prometheus deserved, but instead it was the sequel that the studios thought would sell more tickets. And because of that, I was about to jump off the Alien wagon for good because I did not like it. But Romulus was a really, really well done, like back to the basics type story, but still like honored all the stuff that came before it. So that's my movie of the year, man.
Well, if we have more time to do this stuff in the future, we should not only do movie of the year, we should do music of the year, we should do like best action game, all this stuff. But what we're going to do instead of all that stuff, because it's already 2025, we got to get on with it. We got to start talking about the games coming out. We got to get to all the cool new stuff. But before we do that, we got to reflect on 2024 and what was an excellent year of game. And what we're going to do, year of gaming, sorry, not game. What we're going to do is we're each going to go through some honorable mentions and our top fives for Josh and Jank and I, aka the three of us. And then Gerald is going to do a top three. And I'm going to tabulate this through some magical wizardry I like to call math magician work. And we're going to get the Super BS Gamescast top 5 games of the year, okay? If you're wondering how I do that, don't worry about that, okay? It's super
Magic.
secretive, lots of
Magic.
algorithmic formulas. It's tons of math.
Boring stuff, yeah. Quantum computing, all that stuff.
But since Gerald will not be talking for a while after we start this, because he's doing a top 3, Gerald, shoot us an honorable mention or two. Tell us about a couple games that you thought were good, but not worthy of a game of the year.
I'll start with the best visuals and best sound for a game that's out there, and that's Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga. Best looking game I've ever seen in my life, the best sounding game I've ever seen as far as in my headset, but then you have to play the game.
Wait, for the listeners at home, can we clarify, was that Hellblade 2 or Hellboy 2?
Hellblade 2.
Some confusion in the chat.
Hellblade
Everybody
2.
liked Hellboy 2 as well. They're talking about the 2014 Guillermo del Toro film.
I said Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, and I was pretty clear on that. So.
Well, no, we want Hellboy 2, and everybody loves Hellboy 2. Is it I guess 2008 film. That movie was great, The Golden Army. Okay, that is an interesting pick. You are correct. That game is not fun to play. I played about 1 hour, and I couldn't do anymore.
I went a few more hours in, but again, it's still, I'm about halfway through, and I just don't have the desire to finish it. But it's as a technical spectacle, it is the best of the year on that sense.
You know what? It's okay. I'll talk about this later. It's actually a little bit higher on my list, but it felt like. Do you guys remember the movie? Like, there's Memento and there's Donnie Darko, right? Remember those? Both of those movies came out around the same time. That's kind of what Hellblade reminds me of. Like you're playing.
Does it remind you of Donnie Darko or Memento?
Both of them. Like you're working through somebody's psyche in the game, and that's kind of like the feeling I got while I was playing. And at some points, like I actually had to turn the game off because it was I don't know, it's like overwhelming my senses, and I think a lot of that has to do with like Gerald was talking about the audio.
Yeah, I mean, I think while that sounds interesting in concept, gaming, that's the cool thing about there being video games and movies and stuff. You don't have to make games, right? Like gaming is an interactive medium. It doesn't fit everything. And Hellblade 2 to me is just something that would have been a way better short, like a short film or like just a regular film length.
Well, it's kind of short. It's only 6 hours, 7 hours from what people say.
Sure, for a game, but I think it's something where the interactive elements of it in my opinion, don't add. Like, I didn't gain anything every time I was forced to walk around or solve a rune puzzle. Well, did you finish it, Josh?
No, I didn't finish it. I got...
Okay.
Oh, sorry. So I got close to the end of it. The big thing that bothers me is that, like, in my living room is really, like, even when the blinds are closed, it's still pretty light inside the living rooms. And a lot of the places in that game, you had to have it pretty much pitch black in order to see anything going on. Like, with the... You wander around caves, and to do the puzzles where like flips everything upside down, you got to match everything up with each other. The lights would have to be off. You'd have to have perfect darkness in order to see what you were doing. And I think that's part of the reason I stopped playing is because I could not find a time where I could sit down and pitch darkness to finish working some of these puzzles out.
Yeah, I had a lot of issues with Final Fantasy VII Remake in 2020 for a similar reason. Games that are just like too dark to the point where you cannot play them if any natural light is coming through. Come on, people making games. Yeah. Give us a little bit of freedom, right?
And I understand, but I understand why they do that. It just doesn't work for everybody because not everybody has the same exact gaming setup.
Yeah, and also not everybody has 6 hours to be in that setup, right? Or in Remake's case, 40 hours, right? Like I had to play Remake pretty much only at night or with like all the blinds drawn and stuff. It felt weird, right? Like felt like I had to do this special thing just to play a game. I know this isn't the year we're talking about Remake. We will be talking about another Final Fantasy VII later. But okay, Joshy, give us an honorable mention. Tell us something that is not on your list, but that you loved.
Okay, it's weird that like this is gonna sound bad, but I actually only played like eight new this year games. So making this honorable mention list was not actually that difficult for me.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to start at number 8. I did dabble after we started making those jokes about Infinity Nikki. I did download it, and I did play a little bit of it.
How was it?
It was, I don't know. I mean, it's It's fun. It reminds me a little bit of the Atelier games. Remember we talked about those ones a little bit? That's kind of what it
Yeah.
reminds me of, except like each of the outfits has different power-ups and they do different things for you. You turn into little animals and you scurry through things and you're just trying to find different clothing options. I only played like an hour of it, so I don't really have a big report on it, but
Okay.
it is like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like it plays like Genshin Impact. You're running around. It's kind of the same concept, but you're running around. Your controls are all kind of like that. You're searching for treasures, searching for materials to make outfits with. I don't know. It's unique. I see why people like it. Will I play it
Yeah.
ever again? Probably not.
I mean, that's why it's an honorable mention in the Game of the Year list for the 1 hour you played it. I love that. Okay. I'm going to shoot off one of mine. And honestly, I played, I don't even know how many games, but I played SteamWorld Heist 2 and Animal Well and Prince of Persia Lost Crown and Hellblade 2 and a lot of games this year, not including these ones I'm going to mention. And still, so coming up with this top 5 was really difficult. This game in a slightly slower year probably would have been on my top 5 because I did really enjoy it. But sadly, it just was missing just a little bit too much. Stellar Blade. I find that game to be incredibly fun. It was way better than I expected it to be. It was a very fun, stylish action game with really great progressive elements and hooks. And for a game out of South Korea, a country that doesn't normally do console-style games, I thought they nailed it. They knocked it out of the park. It's just there were a lot more games that I loved this year, and Stellar Blade, while I enjoyed it, it couldn't crack my top 5.
Do you go back and
Gerald,
download the sexy Santa outfit for the main character?
oh, you
For that
better.
Christmas
You know I
DLC,
gotta
man?
have that sexy Santa. No, I did try to get the Nier costume version or whatever it was, because there's like a way to get Nier crossplay, not Nier crossplay.
What's that character's name? B2 something or
2B,
2B? Yeah.
Nier collab or whatever, but it's $15. It's like, okay, I already finished this game. I don't need costumes for a game that I'm probably not going to play for $15. Gerald, hit us with another honorable mention, something that you loved but did not love enough.
Concord?
Oh, did you even play it?
No. But I have it. Still waiting for those. Maybe if I was just trying to perpetuate, if I said good enough good things about it, maybe the price and value of it will rise for a sealed copy. But yeah, it's not gonna.
That's it. You should put it on your number 1. I would have loved this if this Game of the Year list had a game that nobody on this podcast actually played or touched. We've only talked about in that it was the biggest abject failure maybe ever. I mean, there's some things that are close. Crucible from Amazon Studios is one I think of. But nothing like Concord. That is just crazy to me.
But in all seriousness, I have a Marvel Rivals.
Marvel Rivals.
As a solid hero shooter, something Concord should have been. I mean, Concord is when you look at it, a solid hero shooter, but just, the characters are, just pretty much bland, passé, and that was ultimately the reason why it met its demise. With Marvel Rivals, you have a ton of characters there, over 30 to choose from, of your favorite superheroes that are out there. And if you don't want to go into it and buy anything, add on anything to it, because it's free to play, go right ahead and do so, because you don't have to. It's there for you. My girls actually are looking at it, liked it so far, and my elder daughter, who doesn't play too many games but is a Marvel super fan, is getting into it. So just that alone, along with what it's done for the community and how it could be the next, I guess, I'm not going to say it's going to reach Fortnite level, but it could be the next decent hit that perpetuates itself for a long time to come.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of warms your heart to hear that your daughter likes this thing, right? Is she normally a person who plays a lot of games or no?
My youngest is, but my eldest doesn't. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to try Marvel Rivals. I think it looks interesting, but there's a lot of games. I'm not trying to talk about what we've been playing, but I dipped back into Red Dead 2, a game I never finished from 2018. And there's just too many games. It's funny because I don't know about you guys when that game came out, but I bounced off hard. And now going back to it, it's just crazy to think like, man, I didn't want to play this. And I know why, because there were so many games. So yeah, Marvel Rivals, I wish I could have played you. I wonder if you would have made it as an honorable mention on my list. Josh, what's an honorable mention for you, my man?
All right, so I did not play Marvel Rivals, but I did dabble in some Marvel Snap, and I found
nice.
myself, yeah, because it was part of like, I do esports at the school I work at, and that was part of the offering, so I had to sit there and learn how to play the game, and it was actually it's a pretty fun game. It's not what's the card game in Rebirth called? It's
Queen's Blade?
It's not Queen's Blade, but it's it's got some similar mechanics to it, and it was pretty fun. I'm finding after Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'm enjoying more and more of these like card type games, but they have to be played, well. They have to be well done. But no, Marvel Snap's cool because anytime you like do an attack, it'll actually show an attack animation. It's not just like a boring card game. So I think
It's also called Queen's Blood. I was way
Queen's
off.
Blood.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think Marvel's kind of doing all right in the video game realm here recently.
Yeah, man. I mean, it seems like they've turned a corner after the Avengers game that released in, what was that, 2020? I want to say September of 2020. Man, it's funny to think about that we had that, and then a game that probably isn't going to be talked about at all, Suicide Squad, that came out this year. Okay, I will give one more of my honorable mentions. This one kind of hurts me because I think if I could have gotten through some of the difficulty spikes, this probably would have been on my top 5. Metaphor ReFantazio. I absolutely love that game. I think it's incredible. I think the storytelling is brilliant. I think it fixes a lot of my issues with the Persona series, which was the ultra difficult time management where you had to manage every day and do things perfect, or else you wouldn't get to kind of enjoy the story. You'd miss out on a lot of things. The problem that I have with Metaphor, though, is still that time management system is present, and I made one decision that I don't know if I can overcome. And since it's a game where, like, unless you created a lot of saves, you can't just, like, choose to go back a certain amount of time, I may have totally bungled my entire playthrough because I didn't bring enough healing potions with me to a dungeon.
Whoops.
So, yeah, it's to me, it's like such a bummer because I think it's a really, like, honestly, probably top 5 RPGs of all time style game, but it's hard for me to say it's my top 5 game of the year if I'm struggling to even want to go back because I can't seem to get through this dungeon because I don't have it. Like, I have to do everything perfect, and it is a game with save points and stuff, and there's some randomness, and it just stinks to be like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do this dungeon over the course of like probably 8 hours, even though it should be a 1-hour dungeon because I can't make any mistakes. Otherwise, credible game. Heismay, one of the best characters in any RPG since Frog. Easily some of the best storytelling. The voice acting's impeccable. But yeah, it's a bummer. Before we get to our actual games of the year, do you guys have any more games you want to shout out? Any more honorable mentions?
One actually. I'm currently in the process of playing Batman Arkham Shadow on the MetaQuest that Santa Claus brought me this year.
Santa Claus is nice, man. He got you a MetaQuest. How sick do you get every time you play it?
I haven't gotten sick yet. I don't think it's hit me in that manner yet. I do want to play Mobile Suit Gundam Silver Phantom. That's one I'm probably gonna, download at some point this week. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's cool. I know that the novelty of it will wear off in probably a couple weeks. But for right now, I don't know. I'm having a good time with it.
I've actually never done VR. I think I did like one test kiosk in a Microsoft store a long time ago, back when Microsoft stores existed and they had kiosks for VR. How do you feel about VR after playing it? Because it's something that I kind of scoff at because I know that I'll probably be one of the people who get motion sick, so I have limited interest in playing it. What do you think about it overall?
I don't know. I mean, it's not what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be something that very poorly tracks the movements of your hands and your legs. So they have 2 different modes. When you turn on the MetaQuest, it'll measure your surroundings. So a lot of the games, if you want like fully immersive VR, you have to be playing in an open room because you turn it on and it measures how much space you have. And that'll determine like if you can walk around, and it'll stop you from hitting a wall or something because it'll say you're at the edge of your boundary. And it won't, like the game, as the game moves, it won't ever let you get that far, or it'll like redirect you. So you can play it like that, or you can play it in what's called stationary mode, where you just have, you're just able to move your head around and see the things all around you. You don't necessarily have to be up and turning and walking. So you can sit there with the goggles on, and you have the joysticks, and it's a different type of experience. But
which do you prefer?
I prefer being able to walk and move because I feel like I'm more
sounds
immersed.
Cooler.
And if I'm gonna play the joysticks, I might as well just sit on the couch and play Xbox or something. So
it also sounds funny though to imagine playing a Batman game where you are walking around the smallest city in the history of time because you're in a little room, and it's like immediately you're outside and you have to stop and says you're at the boundaries of whatever it says of the city. I just imagine like walls everywhere. It's like, this is a really small road.
City. No, I mean, so a lot of like the Batman game though, you're running around like sewers and houses, not houses, but like buildings and stuff. You're not actually. I at least I haven't gotten to these parts yet. If you're out in the open in Gotham, swinging around like the old Arkham Asylum games, I haven't gotten that far yet. But it's interesting though because I lift up my arms and I'm like, whoa, I'm Batman, because I got this like giant grappling hook on my arm, and I've got the cool gloves, and it really is nothing, because when I got it, I was expecting it to be like remember the old pictures of the PSVR and people are playing Skyrim on it. And people are trying to swing their hands, but it's not picking up the movement, and so they're getting attacked by. So I was imagining it being like really poorly done like that, but it's actually, I don't know where the sensors are on the MetaQuest, but it does a really, really good job of tracking what you're doing.
Yeah, man, I am very interested. Gerald, are you a VR boy? Are you gonna ever get your hands on one?
My doctor told me I'm allergic to VR.
Nice.
Just the same thing. I'm also to certain types of role-playing games as well, as far as that
it's an epidemic.
Turn-based. I'm also allergic to turn-based games.
So he's loving Metaphor, he's loving Batman Arkham Shadows, what I'm hearing, and those are the top. He's doing a top 3. It's going to be those two plus probably some turn-based VR RPG.
I've done VR a couple times. I'm not impressed with it. When you put all the gear on, all I'm thinking about is the gear while I'm trying to do and experience it. I'm just thinking I have all these apparatus on, and I'm just like, it just takes the enjoyment away from me. That's why I really don't like it. I tried, like once a year when I go to CES, I usually get a chance to go ahead and somebody, cons me into trying it, to saying, oh, it's better than it was last year, and it doesn't end up being better than it was last year. The one time was when Microsoft, it was about, it's going on probably close to 15 years now, we're displaying tech called Illumaroom, where you actually walk into a room and it had actually, it's like in the early days of Kinect,
augmented reality, right?
Yeah,
that's when they showed the Minecraft thing.
Yeah, but it had a whole bunch of things that you could interact with. It gets us closer to the Star Trek reality of what I want virtual reality to be. I don't want to have to interact with cables and goggles and things of that nature. I want to be able to just walk into an area and boom, there you go.
So the big question here is can I count on you guys to form a clan when IOI decides to take over the interwebs?
I'm very confused about pretty much every single thing you just said.
So Ready Player One reference, all right? Get with the references, man.
Oh, I did. I will never watch Ready Player One ever again because it is one of the worst movies I've seen, and Steve Spielberg should feel ashamed of himself.
Gerald, is there a boot button? Can we get him out of here?
Yeah, there is actually. It's called Kick. If you look on the side, it's called Kick right there. I thought it was a. I thought it was a. Exactly. You could just, in a way, it is. Yes.
I just love how Josh also likes the other worst movie I've seen in a long time, Alita Battle Angel, which is horrible.
It's funny. I don't ever remember admitting to liking that movie. I said it was okay.
You loved it.
This is like an ongoing thing that I don't remember.
It's not an ongoing thing. It's the truth. I'm sorry that the truth is that you absolutely love Alita Battle Angel. It's your favorite movie of all time. But I cannot stand that movie. It was horrible. It was setting up a sequel that I don't think ever is going to get made because it did horribly.
There's a petition online for an Alita Battle Angel 2.
There are dozens of us. dozens. For me, Ready Player One was not good. I never read the book, so I don't know if the book's better.
I enjoyed the book a lot. I thought the movie
book
was popcorn fun.
Yeah,
Alita Battle Angel, I got past the eyes after about 20 minutes, and I thought it was okay, but nothing special. I mean, Josh and I, on our shows in the past, don't agree on everything. There's a certain Charlie Hunnam movie, which we will not go into.
Oh, yeah, let's not start this.
Our most famous disagreement of all time, but yes, you know.
It's not Dungeons and Dragons. What is it? King Arthur. Arthur, Legend of the
No, we said we're not
Round or
going
whatever.
into this tonight. We
love this.
Dungeons and Dragons rules.
Dungeons and Dragons does rule. That movie's so funny.
But
I really like that one. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, we won't talk about the other one.
Well, let's kick this off. Josh, I'm going to let you start. Give me your number 5 for Game of the Year.
All right. Y'all ready for this?
Y'all ready for this?
So this is not going to be in the same place for you guys, I'm sure, but Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle is my number 5.
And the Great Circle, but yes,
Is it the Great Circle or the Golden Circle? I don't know.
It's the Great Circle.
Everything else is gold in that series.
Yes, okay. Tell us why it's your number 5.
Mostly because I didn't have a chance to finish it, and
okay.
But I'm still playing it, so I mean, I think that makes it worthy of a spot on my list. I got past the Vatican City part that I told you I was stuck on, and I'm like a little bit further than that now. So I will sit down in 2025. I will sit down and finish this game. I promise. But no, I mean, I like it a little bit more. I'm getting better at the combat. I'm getting better at using the weapons in my environment and learning how to do all that stuff. I actually almost prefer it now as opposed to using the guns. But
yeah,
it's
totally.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely it's a lot more focus heavy. Like you have to like Uncharted, you turn it on, you kind of mindlessly play the game. Indiana Jones
movie.
Yeah, it's right. Indiana Jones is a little more. It occupies your focus a little bit more, and I think that's what I struggled with at first because I went in expecting it to be Uncharted, but with Indiana Jones, and it was not that. And I think that's what makes it stand out.
I think that's what a lot of people expected. The second I heard the reviews, I knew that it was going to be different. And when I started playing it, and I won't say where it's on my list yet, it's an immersive sim. It is so similar to Prey 2017, which is one of my favorite immersive sims. It's just so much fun when a game kind of doesn't have a lot of handrails, right? Like there are moments where you're doing linear corridor stuff, but a lot of that game is about exploration. You actually do kind of feel like Indiana Jones, jumping around and solving puzzles and mysteries. Yeah, I totally understand that, man. I'm glad I made it onto your top 5. I'm going to give my number 5, and this one's going to make Gerald so happy. He's going to cry. He's going to say, this is a good list. He loves this stuff. Mine is Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree. And
it's not a game. It's a DLC.
It is a game. Honestly, it should have been Elden Ring 2 or Elden Ring. Night Rain's going to be a spinoff, like a separate downloadable. They probably should have made Shadow of the Erd Tree a separate downloadable because it is so dissimilar to the main game in so many ways. I mean, you still level up and stuff, but the way you actually level up is by collecting this item that they created only in the DLC. They've added tons of weapons. It's essentially like a small Elden Ring. They essentially did half the size of Elden Ring, or probably a third the size of Elden Ring. We're like, hey, we're going to release this and we're going to put it in a DLC, and you have to finish 60% of base Elden Ring to even start it, which is crazy.
Was the DLC? Sorry, I mean, how many hours?
Oh, I probably spent 30 or 40 hours playing it, maybe a little bit more. I finished every single boss in the game or in the DLC. So it's a huge game. It's roughly 5 zones.
It could easily be, it sounds like it could easily be packaged as a separate game.
Yeah, it's not like, when I think of DLC, I always think of the Alan Wake DLCs, right? Which are like 2 chapter add-ons to the game. It's not that. It is way closer to Shivering Isle, but I would say even much bigger than that. And I'd say a lot of people would agree Shivering Isles could have been its own game.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
It could have been
even the Knights of the Nine could have been its own game. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a hard
so
one.
it's it's one of those things where it's like they decided to put it as DLC. That's going to make a lot of people angry when you hear being top 5, but I can't deny how much fun I had. Like there was a point when it came out that I was like, is this my favorite game I played this year? But over time, I realized like, no, there's so many good games, and we're going to start talking about some of those. Gerald, you have a top 3. So Josh, we're going to shoot back to you.
Oh, okay. All right. Number 4, we talked about a little bit already. I got Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and that is sitting at my number 4. That was I've already talked about it.
I mean, you've called it a walking simulator, so I didn't know how it would be on your best of. So.
It's a walking simulator. I don't dislike walking simulators, though. As Brian here, I've been playing all these walking sim storytelling games for years and years, right?
The Vanishing of Ethan Carter to me was a walking simulator.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
What's Eating Edith Finch was a good one. Alan Wake is kind of a walking.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape is the better one.
Right, man. What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
What Remains of Edith Finch is what you're thinking of. That game is incredible.
Yeah. That's
no, there's some good walking sims, I will say. Hellblade 2 is an interesting one. You can validate your choice. It is I don't want to speak to it because I feel like I'd be so negative after what I said earlier.
It's like a 7 out of 10 for me. It's not the perfect game. It's not the worst game ever made. I'm still waiting for that DLC to happen where she sits there and looks out longingly at the horizon and goes, I wonder what's next. And then Dante pops up from DMC, the remake, and he goes, let's go kill some demons. And she goes, hell yeah.
Dude, isn't it so funny that that's the same studio that made DMC and what is that, Heavenly Blade? Like, they used to be a stylish action studio. And then with Hellblade, they went in a totally different direction. And if you remember, they made that game, they released in 2020. I can never remember the name of it, but it was a Microsoft exclusive, where it was like an arena fighter shooter game.
Bleeding Edge. Is that what you're thinking about?
Bleeding Edge. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Ninja Theory is such a strange studio in my mind, right? Because they've been working on Senua Saga Hellblade 2 for forever now. They released it this year to mostly middling to fizzling responses. And yeah, they have such this weird storied history of like stuff that I don't know. I'm curious what their next game is going to be. I definitely don't think it's going to be Microsoft exclusive. That's for a different podcast. We can go over that again. But yeah, I am kind of sad to see their only Microsoft exclusives kind of be the 2 of the most lackluster of their pretty much storied saga, right? All of the games they've made.
Yeah, well, so I think their studio is really small. So I don't know, like, I think once they focus in on a project, I think that's like all their again, we talk on another podcast about this, but I think all their resources get funneled into that. And I think that, if the game is bad, they can't in hindsight go like, oh, we should have done something else. But yeah, I mean, I would really, they're really good at making these like really cool stylized looking action games. It just,
and their graphical fidelity, right? Like the art, everything is so insane. I mean, Senua Saga Hellblade 2 is probably the best looking game ever. It's definitely one of the best looking games this year, if not the best looking game.
It's the best one I've ever seen. But yeah. And sounding again, put it on your headphones. Just the voices that are interacting with you. I thought the first one was the best one I've ever heard, but this does beat that one.
Yeah, it's really phenomenal. Okay, so for my number 4, so we can get Gerald back in here in a second. This one won't take too long. It is the newest game that came out that just I fell in love with. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I cannot imagine how they did it. Like, when I heard about it originally, I was very concerned. I know Machine Games is super talented. Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein 2 are just great. And, their history of, we talked about this, I think, on the podcast already, Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay.
That's right. Yep.
Like, I love the games that they make. And Indiana Jones, I just don't think I expected them to do an immersive sim Indiana Jones where you're walking around Egypt or, boating around a place in Southeast Asia that I don't want to reveal, and like finding mysteries and solving these puzzles. I almost 100% of the game. I did finish it within like the span of maybe a week and a half, and I almost got every single relic. I had to stop finally because the game is a little punishing about backtracking. You have to literally go back physically because it is a very immersive sim style game. And sometimes when you're dealing with these catacombs and tombs, it's really hard to go back through them and then find your way around. It's often very dark. But I mean, that being said, I probably poured 35, 40 hours into it. I really, truly do think it's one of the best games that came out this year. I just think this year had some of my favorite games ever. So yeah, I mean, outside of the Tears of the Kingdom and Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild, this year was like killing it when it came to games for me. So Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was my number 4. Okay, Gerald, we got to kick you off. What is your number 3, my man?
MLB The Show 24.
Really?
Oh.
Okay. This is something we've never even heard of on this podcast, is a sports game. So explain to us why a sports game is a good game.
Well, I'll tell you why. The detail, I know it comes out every year, but the improvements in the physics, the detail in the parks, the detail in the actual players themselves, it's more fluid. The game flows more naturally. I really enjoy it. It's absolutely a fun time. I do play a game every now and then on it, as far as a 9-inning game here and there. So yeah, I just truly think it's probably the best sports game that came out this year. Better than college football, better than Madden, better than WWE, better than NBA 2K. Yeah, I used to often play one game back to back of NBA 2K24 and then also as well MLB The Show 24, and I just stopped playing NBA 2K because I got tired of all the stops and stutters and prompting for microtransactions, so I gave up on that. So I went over to MLB The Show, and it's so much more fun to play. And I still laugh at all you PlayStation users out there. The fact is, I play it for free on Games Pass.
Yeah, that is a funny caveat that it is a part of Game Pass, but for PlayStation users, even though it's a Sony San Diego studio, you have to pay full price for it. It's very silly. Are you is baseball your sport of choice?
No, it's basketball.
Really?
But I do migrate towards, quality sports games. In the past, you guys talked about NFL 2K5. I know that, when a good sports game comes out, I do migrate towards it, and it's something that I try to follow. But yeah, basketball is my favorite sport. But NBA 2K, they need to go back to the days when there was 3 or 4 different. Sony had one, Microsoft had one, Inside Drive. Sony had theirs from 989 Sports. There was like 3 or 4 different competitors to NBA 2K. And
I don't know what happened. EA bought all the rights, right? Like they paid for exclusive rights to
2K,
everything.
2K bought all the rights to the NBA. EA bought all the rights with Madden to football. We need competition.
Yeah, I agree.
These games need competition once again, because I think they're all stagnant again, except for The Show, which does a premier job, but it always goes under the radar. This game every year goes under the radar, comes out in April, and then it just goes under the radar by May. But yeah, if you're like your baseball sims, I highly recommend it.
We have one friend, Jay Fish, that plays this, or he used to play this. I don't know if he plays the new ones, but yeah, that's pretty much my only connection with MLB The Show. I know it comes out. I know I could play it. Sports games, we have a long history, I guess, of them on Super BS Gamescast, of not playing them mostly. I think racing is the closest we've ever come to. But MLB The Show 24 is the 3rd best game of the year for Gerald Glassford. Okay, Joshy Janky, Despise One, Lanky. What is your number 3?
All right, I got my number 3 game here is Visions of Mana.
Nice.
And it was close to a number 2 pick for me, but it was just it was repetitive. Like it's a very repetitive game, and I
Okay.
think that is the one thing. Like Rebirth, for example, right? You're able to do it keeps everything fresh. Like the combat's more or less the same, but there's so much happening in the game that it doesn't. There's not any point in the game where you sit there and think to yourself like, "Oh man, this is getting really stagnant." Visions of Mana had several points where I was like, do I really want to finish this? But I just kept, trekking along. So, good game. Is it a great game? I don't know, but I think it's definitely worthy of a number 3 spot.
Yeah, I'm glad that it got some recognition here. I played probably not even half of it because I'm on chapter 2. Where are you, by the way? Did you finish it, or are you at the very end?
So I'm stuck. I'm stuck on this vampire baddie, and he keeps on. Square always likes to put those bad guys in that have those moves that consume health from your characters.
Yeah,
So it
and
doesn't
give it
matter
back to themselves.
right? So it doesn't matter how close you get them to like their death
Breaking
or
point
whatever.
their
Yeah,
death,
they just keep on going up and up and up. So I'm sitting here. I got to reach out to our buddy Dr. Donna and see how he beat this baddie. But I'll probably finish it, assuming I can get past this part.
Yeah, I don't truly know if I'll go back. Not because I disliked it at all. I think it's great. It is a Super Nintendo RPG, fully realized on like with modern graphics and art direction. But it also is lacking in a lot of things that a Super Nintendo game would be lacking in 2024. Right, the progression elements aren't as interesting as modern games. But that being, and the story and voice acting are pretty bad, at least where I am. But that being said, it's still a beautiful game, and I loved exploring the world. I'm just glad that you brought it up because it did not make my top 5, and I did enjoy it, and I'm glad to see the Mana series is not completely dead in a ditch where Square probably would like it to be. Instead, they put out one game, which I'm happy about. Okay, for me, my number 3, and this is probably not going to surprise anyone, is Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. Since I played Yakuza Like a Dragon back in, I want to say it was 2022, or no, 2020, because it came out around the time that I got the Series X. That series has become like a mainstay of some of the best, well-written, funniest, most fun action RPGs, and in this case, turn-based RPGs. And Like Dragon Infinite Wealth, it's no different than Yakuza Like a Dragon. Maybe it's less novel, and in my opinion, the story of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth ends on a lower note than Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon. But there are so many moments of brevity and of just like funny, heartwarming moments that you don't get in most games, and it's incredibly fun to play and takes place in a setting that you don't normally get, Hawaii, with mini games that are phenomenal. Dondoko Island is their take on Animal Crossing, and I would argue I had more fun playing it than Animal Crossing. And it's just a mini game they put inside of the game, and it has multiple elements once you finish the main city building portion of it. You can also like go to an island and then, train your Pokemon, your Sujimon, your creeps that you capture in the wild. And there's just, like I said, the game is the gift that doesn't stop giving. I just think it ended a little weak. But I hope everybody plays it. I know Gerald loves turn-based games, so he swore on everybody he knows their grave that he would play Infinite Wealth over and over.
Yakuza I might. Just because
Okay.
Yakuza is so damn fun to watch. So
Are you going to play Project Century? Because that looks like it's going to be an action game, but it also looks like it might be the thing that brings a lot of people in.
I mentioned that on our discussion. That's the game I thought that stood out to me the most during the Jeff Keighley Fest. So yes.
Yeah, I think that is. I'm very excited for that. But yes, I understand it's turn-based RPG. A lot of people aren't going to love it, but I love that game. Okay, Gerald, hit us with your number two. Number 2 game.
Number 2. A game that I don't know how it goes under the radar this year on all these best of lists, but my gosh, when it comes out every single year in a different rendition, and people just it's that me for years. It's like it's Call of Duty, it's Call of Duty.
Oh, Black
Call of
Ops
Duty.
6.
And then one finally comes out, which people are raving about, and yet we don't find it on many people's top 10 lists. I'm just going, what the heck? You guys wanted a better story. They gave you a better story. You guys wanted still the cool multiplayer. You got the cool multiplayer. You guys still wanted a really ramped up zombie mode. You got a ramped up zombie mode. I don't get it. How do you make these people happy about the best Call of Duty Black Ops or Call of Duty period to come out in a decade, and it gets no love at all on the end of the best year list? It's just tremendously short-sighted, and I'm not a Call of Duty fan and like I used to be back in the early days, but Black Ops 6 was worth my time. Thought it was fun. I thought it had some elements of Borderlands, which Borderlands has forgotten about. And I thought that was something that was just really enjoyable. The campaign is fluff, but it's good fluff. It's worth going through. It's worth playing. The multiplayer I'm not good at anymore, so I get trashed whenever I tried it. The zombie modes are fun. I've seen different modes, the way you can soup up your weapons. It just is a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters when you're playing video games.
It's I'm glad you brought it up. I played so much of that game. It did not make my top 5, not because it's not super fun. It is fun. I think it's because it's like you said, it's a game we all forget because you take it for granted. It is fairly consistent. It's a consistently
routine.
Fun game.
It's like a yearly routine. And I think that because of that, it doesn't stick out in people's minds as being like, oh, hey, I actually really thought that game was like a top tier game for 2024.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad it got some love here. I haven't jumped in for a little bit since Indiana Jones. I've been getting my Old West on in Red Dead 2, but I do want to get back to it because I had so much fun playing Nuketown, Holiday, and it's just a joy to play. I already prestiged once on the multiplayer. The funny thing for me is I didn't finish the single player, and I don't know if I will. I did enjoy what I played, but the multiplayer is so much fun that every time I turn that game on, it's hard for me to even want to do anything other than play it. Josh, what is your number 2 game of the year?
All right. My number 2 game of the year is a little known RPG called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Rebirth.
And we've talked about this so much on this podcast over the course of this year, but like I mentioned before, it is a game that, yes, the combat kind of stayed the same a little bit, but it was constantly changing how you do things and how an RPG is played. And because of that, I don't know, I think it went places that Square's never gone before. And it still managed to keep like a very engaging story. And I know Gerald doesn't really agree with like having a remake be a, but then again, like it's not really it's not really a remake.
It's a totally different game.
It's a totally different game that just kind of kept the Final Fantasy VII title. Anyways, I don't know. I thought the game was pretty spectacular. I actually played Queen's Blood all the way to the end of the Queen's Blood campaign. I didn't like that you didn't get any items from that. That was it was just kind of like a story thing. Yeah, a little bit more story, but I don't know. There's a lot in that world that I found myself wanting to see to the end of the each of these little narrative threads, and not many games have done that for me in a long time.
Yeah, man, it's such a phenomenal game. I love it to death. So I'm very thankful that you also love it, because I think it deserves it. Unlike, we talked a lot about Remake when we restarted up this podcast again, and I think there's so many more flaws, and Rebirth is just the funner game. I'm glad, in my opinion, I'm glad it's getting some credit, because a lot of people are like saying, oh, it's got all these problems, and it does, but in my opinion, it's just
every game has
such
issues.
A fun game. Yeah. Okay, that is an excellent number 2. For my number 2 game of the year, which this one is such a joy to play. This game is so stupid, stinking fun. I absolutely love it. It is Astrobot. When I think of games that are like pure joy, I think of games like Astrobot. It is a game that all I want to do is just have fun, essentially running around this crazy world, finding the different bots that are, people are like, oh, it's marketing. It's just like the PlayStation marketing, blah, blah, blah. I understand that, but who cares? It's so much fun, and it's silly, and it's fun to see the Days Gone guy, Deacon St. John, in the game, or the Bloodborne Hunter. But what's even more fun is seeing Mr. Mosquito or Tomba, or just all these random characters you hadn't even thought of for years. Seeing Trico and Amaterasu, and then getting your bots and opening up a new part of the island and getting even more bots and more puzzle pieces and unlocking more costumes. And then doing like the special levels, right? Like it's a game where when I think about it, like I want to play it again now. And it's a game that like Super Mario Odyssey, I will probably replay it very, very, very soon. Such a great game.
Yeah.
My goodness. So hopefully we get to talk about some more. We will see. I'm not going to spoil anything, but
Gerald. It's sorry, let me piggyback on that.
Oh yeah, no worries.
It's a fantastic game. And I don't care. Like if Sony, their state of play or whatever, if they were to show up in June or July or August or whatever, and they said, you want to see our state of play? Turn on Astrobot. I'd be like, yes. I don't care if it's a giant marketing campaign. Like it was nostalgic and it was fun, and it was just one of those games where you didn't have to really commit yourself to a narrative. You could just sit there and play it. And we don't get many games like that anymore.
Yeah, it really is something special. In a world where Sony has decided they're just going to do these third-person narrative games, or at least that's what they did all last gen, the games that they started with, Ape Escape, Ridge Racer, the games that were the original PlayStation of like, whoa, this is special, but it's also fun and silly. Crash Bandicoot. This is Astrobot, right? Astrobot is that fun, silly, easy to pick up, hard to put down game. It has the Nintendo magic all over it. Honestly, one of the best games I've played in a very long time. Gerald, you got to hit us with your number one. The number one game of the year for Gerald Glassford.
Well, I will say this. I recently purchased Balatro. I have yet to play it, but I have a feeling that had it been like 2 weeks from now, it probably wouldn't go on my list. But I do want to give it a special shout out because Balatro, I was on the plane coming to and from Seattle, and I saw people both going there and coming back on the plane playing Balatro. So
it's on Apple Arcade now. So I was actually thinking about
Balatro is a great game.
You're on mute, Josh.
Sorry, it is on Apple Arcade now. So I was actually thinking about taking it for a little test drive here this week.
So yes,
you should.
It's something that will be growing quite well in popularity, and it's the indie success story of the year. And wanted it to go appreciated before I thought that would be on one of your guys' list, but since it's not, I wanted to make sure it gets a shout out because I have I'm going to be trying it pretty soon. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows about it as well.
So I almost did a third honorable mention, and it was going to be between Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown and Balatro. Balatro is incredible. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is also a really great Metroidvania. But in the end, Balatro is a roguelike. And that's not like a knock against it. It's a great game, but it is a roguelike. And those are just games that I don't vibe with. There's very few that I've ever really
Your doctor
loved.
said you're allergic to those games, yes.
My doctor, I go to a doctor regularly, my video game doctor, and he said, you cannot play roguelikes. Dr. Mario, yes. And he gives me the pills, and I take all the pills. But yeah, Balatro is great. So that is your number. No, I'm just joking. So what's your actual number one? We got to know what that real number one is.
Well, did you hear that sound, guys? That sound in the distance is Astrobot sitting up on top of a shelf, ready to go and do some platforming. But then he gets cracked by a whip upside his head because Indiana Jones just messed up his day.
Oh, man. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Yes.
Talk about it. Tell us why you love it.
Indiana Jones, as someone who goes back, way back when, saw the original in the theaters, enjoyed the third one as far as with Sean Connery. We won't talk about the second movie. If we have to, I'll probably get squeamish. But yes, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle just harkens back to those great first and third films. The old saying before they made the films in this century, was okay. Yes, the odds were the good films, the even ones were not going to be. But yeah, at this point, I just absolutely just am amazed at what Machine Games did with this game. You guys talked about its past with the Escape from Butcher Bay, as far as the crew. Many of the people who made that game were involved with this one, and you can just see it. You can just see the DNA of it. It truly is a fun game to play, and that's the first thing. As far as, yes, is it a quality game? Yes. Is it a well-made game? Yes. Is it a great-looking game? Yes. All these things that you want, you checks off the box. Check. But the one thing it does the most is the fun factor, and does it really inspire me to go ahead and just believe in the Indiana Jones IP again. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Had this game been introduced at the time of the Xbox Series X and S, this whole console race would have been turned around completely, because PlayStation does not have anything like this. It will have it in a few months, but if it came out as a console exclusive at the beginning, it would have beat Spider-Man 2. It would have beat all these other games. It would have just garnered so much more attention, because at that time, Xbox and Microsoft, they were into merchandising and running commercials and supporting their games. These days, no, they don't. Case in point, I go to the Xbox store the other day, the official Microsoft store and whatnot. I go in there, no support at all for Gears, no as far as E-Day, no support for Avowed as far as anything in there, no support for Stalker 2, Microsoft Flight Simulators, a little bit of stuff. But then I go on...
How many Master Chief cutouts?
Not much. No, it's nothing.
What?
Nothing.
Only the one.
It's just generic Xbox stuff, which which is kind of cool. I found some stuff, and then generic Microsoft stuff, and then a display. As far as basically, you can go ahead and try the demo of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And that just speaks to the larger problem of Microsoft just not having enough faith in the Xbox product to do that. But yes, back when they did have faith, at around the time that they released the Xbox Series S and X, had they done this the right way and had this game come out then, we would be talking about the console race in a whole much more competitive fashion than it is right now, because Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is that good.
Yeah, even if they would have just released in 2022, because I always think, and it's so funny, people don't remember, everybody's memories are so short-lived. 2021 was the year of Xbox. That was the Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, Psychonauts 2, right? They were knocking it out of the park. I felt like for 3 months straight, like all I wanted to play was new Xbox games. And then just this dirge, nothing. They had Starfield, but it ended up not living up to what anybody hoped. But beyond that, like, they needed Indiana Jones, and they needed him a long time ago. And now Microsoft has no faith in the Xbox anymore. And it is sad to see them become essentially a third party, because even though it's $1 billion corporation, they're just like, well, we don't care. So
you guys remember how much those Halo commercials cost to make? They're millions.
The blur ones?
Yeah. Well, the one that like Peter Jackson did one and Guillermo del Toro did one, like those things cost millions to make, and like the marketing worked. Like people went out and bought those games, and I don't understand why they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, honestly, it's because Microsoft is, I don't even know if they're going to make another generation of consoles. I think they probably will, because they are going to stay making games, right? Because they're a third-party publisher, so why not just have at least a console? It's probably, for them, they make PCs, right? So it's probably not that much of a lift. But yeah, they just don't care about gaming, and it's so sad because they bought a company like Bethesda up, a big publisher, and they own a studio called Machine Games that is like the best, and they released what is one of the best games of this year, and it's on a platform that sadly, because of just what's going on, it's not even going to be talked about till maybe the spring, and even by then, it will probably be the same as like when a PlayStation exclusive comes to Xbox, right? A lot of the energy and excitement and enthusiasm will just be out of the room at that point. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a phenomenal game and something that like everybody should play. PC, Xbox. I mean, if you have to wait for PlayStation, get it on that. But it is just fun. It is probably one of the best licensed games ever. Like I'm trying to think
Agreed.
right now if there's another licensed game I like more. I mean, maybe Chronicles of Riddick, because I did like that game a lot. But man, it's such a good game. Gerald, that is a great number one pick, is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle for Gerald Glassford. Okay, Josh Janke, the despised one, your number one game of the year. What is it?
All right, hold on. Before I do that, I got one more honorable mention. All right, I've been saving.
Okay.
I completely forgot about it.
Okay.
Pal World.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Power World's
sorry,
great,
guys,
man.
my throat. Yeah, Pal World. It didn't make my top, my top 5, but I think I dumped more hours into that game than any other game I played this year. And
So funny.
That fact alone, I think the fact that I kept wanting to pour, actually, is one of those games where you'd sit down and your time just disappears. You don't really know where it went. But I don't know. I mean, I think for what it was and what it was trying to do, it definitely succeeded in being something that is worthy of playing.
Yeah, man. Power World is a pretty great game that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. All right, but my number one is Astrobot. We talked about this a little bit already, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like I said before, it's one of those games where you can sit back, relax, play it, and it was a good time. I don't think I've enjoyed a platformer that much since the Spyro the Dragon remake that came out. What was it 2000? I think it was like 10 years ago. When was that?
Yeah. The Spyro the Dragon remake? You're talking about the collection, right? The trilogy?
Yeah.
That came out in like 2019, I want to say, or 2020.
Okay. Yeah, not that long ago. But yeah, that was I haven't enjoyed a platformer that much since I played that one.
Yeah. 2018. I was wrong. So 2 years before that, I thought it came out. Yeah, I mean, it is... Oh, dude, Astrobot is so good. Speaking of Spyro, he's in there. You got to get him. You got to collect him. We could be talking about that game all day, every day. Did you finished it, right? I don't know if I can't remember if you 100%ed it.
I didn't 100% it, but yeah, I mean, I finished the main game.
Yeah, it's such a good game. Yeah, man, Astrobot rules. That's all I'll say. For my number one game of the year, the game that meant more to me than all these other games that we just talked about, it is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I discussed it multiple times on this podcast. I discussed how I couldn't even get to the ending because I was so frustrated
You're unsure
by
for a while.
several things. Yeah, I wasn't sure this was going to make my list, but every time I think about it, I think about the care put into every cutscene and all the character work and just all of the emotion that they put in. And yeah, does it flub the ending? Sure. But it's a 100-hour game, and I would say they flub 5 hours of 100 hours. It's like such a small percentage. The rest of it, I was grinning ear to ear. I was having so much fun. I couldn't wait to play. I liked, I would say, 80% of the mini games, considering there were like 16 of them. I thought most of them were pretty fun to play. Games like Queen's Blood, I would say, were as good as Gwent, which was the Witcher 3 card game that everyone loved. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it really renewed my hope in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. After Remake came out and was a linear corridor walking simulator for 40 hours, what was a 8-hour set piece, maybe even 5-hour set piece in the original, right? Going through Midgar. They fleshed it out in a lot of ways, but they also padded it. And then they added all their multiverse trash that they wanted to do with the story. Rebirth, it has some of that, but boy, does it just go back to the core root of what the story of a game should be. And yeah, there's issues I have with it, a lot of them, but I am blown away by caring this much about. I mean, it's been since Final Fantasy 15 when we started Super BS in 2017 since I've really cared about a Final Fantasy game this much. 16 did not do it for me. There were moments that were great, but this one is just, I mean, I still never finished 16, and
it's funny. Like 15 and 16 both really dropped the ball, like in the last 3 or 4 hours of the game. But I feel like Rebirth did a pretty good job of being. You didn't necessarily agree with the stuff that happened in the story, but it's still engaging from start to finish, at least.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So, guys, I'm gonna read off the list, the Super BS Gamescast top 3. I decided to do top 3. I will share why after I read it. But number 3 is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. That came in with 4 points. Gerald, because it's your number 2 pick, it got you there, okay? It is a great game. I'm glad to see it on our list. Our number 2, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It came in with 8 points because it was on every single one of our lists. 1 point from Josh, 2 points from me, and then 5 points from Gerald. So great. And then for our number 1, which you guys are going to hate me for this, but this is how the points settled. It's a tie. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And Astrobot. Both showed up with 9 points for what is easily some of the best Sony releases that they've done in forever. And I know this Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a little bit of a cheat, saying it's a Sony release, but PlayStation has had a rough PS5 cycle. Yeah. I think most people can agree to that, right? Like Horizon's Forbidden West just did not do it for them. Concord, obviously the biggest flop of all time, potentially of all time. Might not be the biggest flop of all time, but it's close to it. And they got 2 exclusives this year that I truly think are great. And truly everybody besides Nintendo was eating good this year, right? Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was the Microsoft exclusive that they needed. Now, what I'm hoping for 2025 is, and we'll talk about this more, is that Microsoft, because they've got all the cards right now, plays an incredible 2025, and maybe they have a change of heart. But anyways, that's going over again. That was Call of Duty Black Ops 6, our number 3 with 4 points. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is our number 2 with 8 points. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Astrobot tied for number 1 with 9 points. If we would have done a 5-point scale, we would have had Hellblade or Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2 as our number 5, and a 3-way tie for number 4 with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Visions of Mana, and MLB The Show 24. But I thought that's a little bit too much. Let's keep it a simple top 3. And honestly, even though there's 4 games in there, I feel like those are some of the best games that have come out in a long time. So we did good work, team.
Good
anything
year,
you guys want to add
good
before
year.
we say goodbye to 2024? Never to talk about it again, and we will never even talk about a game that came out in 2024 ever again on this podcast.
This is a good year, guys. We'll, look back on this one in our Super BS Hall of Fame. Actually, I think we should do an episode where we go back and look at the old
Game of the Years.
Game of the Year.
We only had the one for 2017, and I think you and I might have done a 2020. So we'll be definitely not missing anything.
For like
we'll have to fill with Pop Culture Cosmos's Games of the Year. We'll just cut all those audio clips of you guys talking about it. But no, that would be fun to revisit. Every time I think of that 2020 episode we did where I talked about Cyberpunk, and I believe it was my number 4 that year, and it kept creeping up, I always think like, man, would it be higher? Like that game was so good. Cyberpunk 2077, I played so much more of it since. But yeah, it was a fun year for gaming. And I honestly think 2025 has a chance to be even better. It could be a lot worse, but there's some big heavy hitters coming out. We'll probably spend our next episode just getting prepared for what's going to be a big gaming year.
Yes. I know. I mean, I want to do another, next episode. I want to talk about the stuff coming out, but I've been kind of previewing some things. It looks like, I think 2025 is going to be a pretty big year for game releases.
Heck yeah. Gerald, anything that you're excited to leave everybody with from 2024?
I'll just say it's just so funny because, again, I said it before. Interesting how your game of the year or our game of the year came out the same week, virtually the same week, as the biggest disaster in video games. And I'll leave it at that.
Hooray!
Silver lining, man.
Well, it'd be a silver lining if it goes up in price charting.
Well, for all is lost for those who bought Concord to sell, but maybe someday it will go up.
All
again
right,
in the
hold on.
future.
One last eBay sale.
Price
I checked it
analysis.
already today, so
It's
it's not.
the $45 was what I'm looking at here. So
Hey, that's a $5 profit. Gerald.
yeah.
So by the time
Not
you're
if
done
you
with
pay
your eBay-
tax.
by the
This
time you're
is
done with your
true.
eBay selling fee, you will be only negative $10.
Get it
So it's-
graded, man. You have no choice now.
Get it
I have no
graded.
choice.
Okay, till we play Concord again. Peace.
Peace.